Well, hey, I'm just a little lettuce hanging out over here with my bacon and my mater. Hi guys, it is the Naptime Crafter, and I'm moving right along into Halloween. It hit me the other day that October 1st was right around the corner, and I had yet to even decide on a first costume for my baby boy. If you know me, I am obsessive about Halloween, and I definitely am going to post a throwback of some of my favorite costumes I've ever made. But this year we've added someone new to our family, and so no more Shrek, no more Paula Deen and Butter, no more, what else were we? The Maitlands from Beetlejuice. We have to do trios now. I was racking my brain, and I finally came up with a BLT. So, never claimed to know how to draw people. Hence, we got hoofs for hands and paddles for feet and shadow faces. But this is what I was going for. And I just managed to make this in one day, guys. 24 hours. Yeah, 2 afternoons I did it. So like I started in the afternoon, and then I slept on it, and then I finished the next morning. Bam, bada bing, bada boom. I'm about to help you guys do this too. Don't be overwhelmed. Let's get our supplies first. First things first, let's draw out what you want to make. If you want to make a BLT, I'm here to show you exactly how to make that one. But if you want to make something else, go ahead and sketch out your ideas, and what you're going to want to do is get some colored pencils or some crayons and kind of color it in, because that is going to help you map out exactly what fabrics you have. You may be able to use old t-shirts, old sweaters, things that you have, guys. I used stuff that I already had, so I want you to be able to do this and make it approachable, okay? Once you're done with that, you're also going to want to gather an old roll of paper, like Christmas, Hanukkah paper, whatever you have laying around that is like extra and you can use, because guess what, guys? The inside is pattern paper. Hallelujah, we're about to use the inside and use it to draw out our ideas. Then you can test your scale, you can test your pieces, you can plan your stuff out, guys, without spending a fortune and without having to piece together 100 8x10 sheets of paper. Next, you're going to need to gather up some cardboard. I am not going to be shy. I did definitely go into a local store's dumpster in the back and get a few boxes, because what I have planned, I needed some large boxes for. Whatever, don't be shy. If you'll notice on my thing, we have bread, because what's a BLT without some toast? So I am making a backpack piece of toast for my husband, and I'm gonna have a shield piece of toast for myself, and that'll make it easy for us to transport or set up for photos or whatever we need to do. It's not really, it's kind of floatable. For that I needed some large pieces of cardboard, and we're gonna get to that next, but I want you guys to feel like this is an approachable thing. Think about things that come in threes. The Three Musketeers, the primary colors. Think outside the box, okay? I love buying costumes ready-made if you do not have the time or the willpower or the whereabouts to get it done. But if you do, it is so special to have a handmade costume. So the first video is going to be short so that we can go ahead and get going, but think outside the box when you're making your idea. This, guys, is an Elmo onesie. I just made the tomato disc and then hand sewed it to the neckline so I can take it off later and keep using the onesie. Don't feel limited by your resources. Use what you have. Let's make this fun. Let's do it together, okay? So gather your resources, make your drawings, and get your cardboard. Your hot glue is a necessity, your roll of wrapping paper, and then we'll get started. We are back, guys. Today I am making this really easy family of 3 costume, which is a BLT. My little boy will be the tomato, bacon, and lettuce. And we're going to get started today in an easy way. If you've gotten your supplies together, you've got a roll of old rolling wrapping paper, and what we're going to do is start by giving ourselves a shape. So for mine, I knew that I was going to have a lettuce leaf draped, and I wanted to use this dress that I already had because it's just easy and it fits me, and why not make it easy on myself? So what I did was really quickly, I got a yard and a half of green felt from Joann's. Now you could probably find this online for a little bit cheaper, but I'm impatient, so I went and then I got it 50% off. It ended up being fairly cheap. I think it ended up costing me like $3 or something like that along those lines for a yard and a half of this with my coupons and everything. What I did was then with a rectangle, I have this body form. So this is one thing that if you do not have, what you're going to need is somebody that's about your size to put on the outfit you're going to be sewing to, because you really need to drape this. This is a draping project. And there's two different ways of making things. You can have a flat pattern or you can drape things. I was a costume designer in college and I learned both, and I actually love the functionality of both. Both have their merits. Merit. Sorry, that's something my husband and I do. Weirdos. Anyway, so what I want you to do is these are going to be more flat pattern, almost like pattern piecing, and this is going to be draped. So for today, I'm not going to show you this because this is a different application altogether. But we're going to go ahead and focus on this. This takes a body form or another person. I'll do that in another video. For the bacon, let's go ahead and start with that. What you're going to want to do is put the person that you're going to make the bacon for, stand them up, and just roughly with your hands, kind of gauge what their shoulder to their hip generally would be, okay? Over here I wanted to make it this way. So, taking that, this is very, very professional, guys. Put it down, dot, dot, okay? What we're doing here is we're giving ourselves a baseline, a bottom and a top. This is where we're going to probably have our bacon stop and start, okay? So from that point, you've got your base. You're going to want to draw a top. Now think about bacon. It's a little bit curved. A bottom, okay? And then give it a little wiggle room, okay? Now, think about bacon in the pan. It's quite wiggly. If you're making this for a guy, I wouldn't go that wiggly. It's just more masculine to have more flowing, straight shapes. If you're making it for a girl, maybe you want to have it have a more fluttery edge, because that's something that feels good to that particular person. But whichever way you choose, draw it out. And it doesn't have to be perfect the first time, because you're going to change it anyway, okay? Once you have your bacon in the exact length that you need it, now you're going to want to start drawing in the veins, or the areas that you're going to use different color fabrics to layer on top of, okay? So for example, if you look at bacon, it generally has fat running throughout it. And we want it to be exaggerated because we want this to show up good in pictures. One of the things I learned in costume design was that you want that guest that's sitting in the very back row to have the same experience that they can possibly have as the people in the front row. Not really possible, but you want to try to give that with audio, with lights, with everything, especially with costumes. So exaggerate things. Rosy cheeks on your costumes. Things that are going to really look great in photos. That's what you want to do. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to do a little bit of a curved edge going down that. Now, depending on how you want to do this, you could stop with two colors. I quite like the way that this looks against this, and I could have stopped there. I happen to have an additional color brown velvet in my scraps, so I did add a little bit of extra in there that just gives it that fried look, that like realistic as a velvet piece of bacon on your arm, on your shirt can be. So if you want to do that, go ahead and draw in a couple of more, okay? So all you're doing is drawing a map, okay? So now what you're going to want to do is on here with your marker, write on there what colors you'd like. This will be cream for fat, because fat generally looks a little bit white when it's rendered. Cream, cream, and then this will be dark brown, and this will be dark brown. Sorry for the horrible handwriting. And then the background piece is going to be your reddish overall tone that you're going to put these pieces on top of, okay? At this point, you're going to want to get your scissors out and cut out that shape. cutting, cutting, cutting. Sorry for the rolled paper. See what I can do about that. We'll just set that to the side. And for the sake of showing you what I've got going on here, I'll lay out some stuff to keep it down. So, let me finish cutting this end off. Not going to make that quite such a curve at the end because one of the ends will be hand sewn shut. Okay, it is at this point where you can go ahead and cut the rest of your pieces out by laying it down and drawing it out. So for example, the tomato, I would draw a large circle, and then on the inside, using a reference from the internet, I usually go to photos over drawings because photos you can make your own interpretation into the drawing. If you're taking a drawing and turning it into a drawing, sometimes that's a little derivative, aka copycat. So sometimes you can do that if it's a costume, but if you're ever going to resell something or like I'm showing an idea, I definitely want to make it my own idea. So I drew a circle after having measured my son, and I knew that from his chin to about right below his crotch was right at the 17-inch mark. And I knew I wanted to have that be the finished product so that when he's sitting in his stroller, he can kind of have it hold hanging out, and then if he's standing, it'll flop down. I just really wanted that to be my final measurement. So I made my first circle on the paper, and then I went inwards and I drew my shapes, okay? So I have the same drawing here of the tomato. I can sit here and do that in another video if you'd like. You can comment below if you need me to do this drawing, or if you'd like me to provide the template, I can also do that, but it would be something that you would have to print out on an 8x11 and tape together. Not ideal. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in having the template drawn out for this and the bacon. Otherwise, you can just eyeball it like I just did. Once you have these drawings and they're cut out, now's a good time to go to the craft store and or pull out, the craft store being your closet if you want, and pull out your scrap fabrics because you need to see what you have enough of. It's surprising how little fabric you can get away with when you're doing a project like this. So go ahead and pull out any old sweaters, any old t-shirts, things that have stains on them that you've been like, I'll probably wear it, but you never do. Yeah, those things. Go ahead and pull all those out. And if you have a hankering and you really can't find what you need, head to the craft store and go and get some fabric quarters and some of the things that are in the discount bin. Go to the remnants section, guys. I score so hard at the remnant section. Sometimes I can't find what I'm looking for in the regular section, and it's right in the remnant section. It's like, yes. So, once you've gathered your fabric and you know generally how much you need, and I'm speaking about buy more. If you have to buy it, buy more than you need just so that you have enough wiggle room to make more if you need to, or if you screw up, or if somebody wants to buy it later, or if you end up loving it, yada yada. Always better to have a little bit more. Maybe that's why my craft rooms end up looking crazy. But once you have your fabrics, let's go ahead and come back and we'll get started cutting them up. So I am moving on to the sandwich board shield and backpack project. Now, this project can be adapted to whatever shape you want to make it. So if you are doing another project where you need a turtle shell on the back, or you need if you're being an acorn and you need a hat on your head, or you can kind of use this project as a basis and expand upon it. And that's what I want you to do. Have fun playing with it. There's no wrong when it comes to some of these ingredients being so cheap. Some of these materials you can really find in dumpsters. The only thing that you're spending is on the glue. So if you have your cardboard together and you have your idea in your head, then all else you need is your hot glue gun, some scissors, an X-Acto knife, and a ruler. I prefer metal rulers when you're working with X-Acto knives. It's up to you. People have different preferences. I just find I cut into the plastic a lot, so I like using the metal. So what I've done is I laid out first, before I got on here, I laid out my big, huge box that was off the camera. And I went ahead and measured how big would I want my sandwich bread to be, because I want it to be proportional so that when we stand in photos together, it doesn't look gargantuan compared to everything else. I decided that this was about a good size. It's something that I want to hold on to. Looks cute next to his cute tomato. Looks good with the little bacon hanging off the edge. Just is in general a good size. So what I've gone ahead and done is laid out my big board and with a marker drawn out a shape of the board that I would like. Now, depending on how many you want to make, each one that you're going to make needs 2 pieces because we want one side and the other side, and we're going to sandwich some cardboard between them to give it that 3D effect, okay? So, go ahead and cut out. I'm going to be making 2 different slices of bread, so I had to go ahead and cut out 4 pieces of cardboard in my bread shape. This I did in the living room on the floor with my baby boy crawling all over it. It was super fun. But I did manage to get 4 slices of bread cut out. Now, for this part, I'm only going to need 2, so I'll go ahead and set 2 aside. And the next part you're going to need is something to give these a little bit of depth. So again, you're going to want to kind of figure out how deep you want your bread to be, or whatever item you're making. And I was thinking for my size of bread, probably somewhere around there is good. So I went ahead and cut strips 2 inches thick, okay? Now, the important thing to think about cardboard is it's strong in one direction. The direction that you see these going in is the direction you want to see when you cut your cardboard. Don't cut down the lines. It's a lot easier to cut that way, but you don't get the strength that way. So you want to cut it this way so that you can't crush that, versus if I pushed it this way, I'd be able to fold it in a bunch of different ways. So make sure you're cutting with the grain. It's almost like grain of fabric. Cut with the grain of your cardboard to give you that strength that you're looking for. Then what you're going to want to do is, I want my anything marked with a logo to be on the inside of my bread, because I'm going to make bread and I'm not going to give too much color to this, so I really don't want to have any markings to have to cover over. So I'm doing cardboard out, okay? Now, the next step I'm going to do, logo in, I guess that makes more sense, is I need to glue some supports. Cardboard works a little bit better when you bend it a little bit, okay? I'm so sorry, but my glue stick isn't going to reach very far. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to give myself a nice little bead and plop it down. Doesn't matter where. What you want to do is you want to space out your supports all around the base. So I'm just going to hold that so that I know it's good. And then what I like to do is take a little bit more glue and do a bead on either side, just to seal in that joint. Make sure you have enough hot glue in your hot glue gun. And you're going to keep going. So this part kids can help with, like, you know, older, a little bit older, 6, whatever. I'm not going to have my 1-year-old helping me. But again, you don't have to feel like it has to be a certain way or it has to be perfect. Use the size and the length that you have. What's important is that the width of them is all the same. So if you choose your item to be 3 inches thick, make it about 3 inches thick. Don't forget the width of the cardboard is also going to be included on either side. So if you really need it to be exact, it's going to be like math and all that, and I don't do all that. But if you want it to be just a general thing, and you want it to be about 2 inches, make it about 2 inches thick, okay? Your bases. Your supports, goodness gracious. So I'm holding that down, and then I'm going to keep working my way down, making some supports. Make sure you give your hot glue kind of enough time to heat up, otherwise it doesn't flow out well and it's annoying. Again, I'm just bending it once to give it a little bit more support on itself so it doesn't fall flat, and then gluing it straight down onto that base. And all that's going to do is give me a nice even surface to glue the other hot glue to glue the other side of the sandwich to, excuse me. So I'm going ahead and I'll probably do 2 more, 1 in each corner, just to make sure. I am going to be going along the inside edge, okay? So I'm going to save some of these longer ones. I need to cut a few more shorter ones to use as supports. What we're going to be doing, and I'm going to show you the Cookie Monster that I made for my son's birthday. But let me just cut a couple more of these so you can see how you're going to do this. Line it up on your cutting mat. And make 2 passes. Let the tool work for you. Do not force it, do not push, do not hurt your wrist, do not do any of that stuff. Let the tool work for you, okay? You need a sharp blade, and run it across, run it again. Always cut it twice. Do not try to force your knife through and cut it all the way through in the first pass. That's something I learned all the way back in school. It's going to cut through if you're cutting, whether you're cutting foam core or cardboard, it's going to tear at that edge even 3 times. What does it cost you? Nothing. I'm going to do 1 more set just for, because I have it here all lined up. And I'm going to go ahead and glue these last 2 on here. I don't know if you guys have been perusing YouTube lately, but I have, and my cord isn't just not long enough, and my new recommendations, you know, once you start looking at videos, YouTube obviously tells you other things you might like, which is super awesome. Well, one of the things they keep telling me now is dumpster diving, because have you seen what some of these people are finding in their neighborhood dumpsters, like their store dumpsters? Like iPads. What? So I looked, of course, and all I saw was maggots and like garbage, but at least I looked, right? Can't say I didn't look. I got this cardboard. Not from the maggot one. Not from the maggot one. Guys, that'd be disgusting. Ah, oh good, someone's doing lawn work outside. Shooting videos here, people. Babies are sleeping. Okay, we have our supports. And we're ready to add our top. Now, you have to work fast with this. And if you want my honest opinion, this cord is definitely not long enough to work fast. Start at one end. That way you can lift the board as you go. Do as thick of a bead as you possibly can. Line up your top and set it down. And that's just going to give you your both sides of your bread, okay? Press it down till it's good. Because you don't want to break that seal. That's the thing with hot glue. Just let it dry once and then leave that seal, and then it'll be good for you. Now, I need to go in here and add some glue in here, and you're not going to be able to see it. But what I'm doing is I'm slightly pulling this apart, and I'm going to go along this edge and add some hot glue in there. This project eats the hot glue, so make sure you have some hot glue on hand. So this can be used for a ton of different applications, and the thing is it's lightweight. It doesn't cost a ton of money, so you don't really care if it gets ruined by the end of Halloween. And you can do a ton of different fun shapes that would cost a fortune to buy. A big old thing of bread like this, I can't even imagine how much this would cost to get this size. So it's just a fun way. If you can't reach, you can do that side trick where you just put the hot glue around the edges of the wood, of the support. Oh gosh, it isn't easy, guys, but you can do it. Get the strings off later. I say it every time, get the strings off later. You see how they're just stringy? Hey, you could use this for spider web. No merit. Don't be ridiculous. Hey, I'm really excited to announce that I just got picked to be a backup guest on the Home Shopping Network for a little mini craft iron. I'm super, super excited. Please, 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 please help me and subscribe and like and share with your friends. I would love to grow my followers before I start my HSN journey, just because then you can come along with me and be with me for my very first photo, my very first on-air debut and all that fun stuff. So I'd love you to be there. Okay, the last step of this is to go ahead and trim out the entire edge of this with the cardboard. To do that, what you're going to need is longish. The longer strips are the better. Strips of your cardboard in the same width that you can go right in between and glue along that edge to hide the width of this, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and do one side first, all the way around the whole entire thing, and then I'll flip the entire thing over and glue it down to the base, because that way I can put the weight downwards on the glue. It doesn't fall anywhere. Glue has a tendency of running, so you want to kind of put the weight straight downwards. And the other thing is, because you have the ends of the cardboard cut like this, you can easily bend these strips to go around curves. So this is a great, great tool to go around these curves, because what I can do is, I'm going to show you as soon as this is nice and dry. I have glued all along here, then I get to this curve and watch. You just can easily bend this to go right around that curve and make that smooth transition that looks nice. Please excuse my hair. So what I want to do is make sure I put it exactly where I want it to go, right around that curve, and then go back, move it, and put a bead of glue to secure it to the base. What I've found is, if you push it inwards a little, great. If you push it inwards a little, and then pull the base out, it seems to be really secure. Meaning, if you have the base and you have it outwards, it's harder to put the glue on the inside and then push the base in. It seems to push the glue in, and it's not as seamless of a transition of getting it in before the hot glue dries. So I found if you push the base in, put your bead of glue, and then pull it outwards to the edge, gives you a nice clean edge. I'm just holding this until it feels nice. Okay, that's good. Now across this bottom, I like to make sure I'm going to have a solid piece go all the way around my curve. So I'm going to use this short piece along the bottom where it won't be seen as much, and then that will make sure that this next piece will be able to continue around that curve seamlessly. This takes a little bit of planning, but I promise you it's worth it in the end, because cardboard and glue although really cheap materials, they can actually work for a costume really well, so don't sell yourself short. Now the last time I put the glue on the actual piece of bread, and I'm going to show you what it's like if you put it on the piece during this step. First off, my hot glue gun is not coordinating. So if I do it like this, that's fine, but see how I have to make sure I wedge it in before it dries. So that worked out pretty well actually. But if you're doing a curve or anything like that, you might be struggling to get it under this lip in time before the hot glue dries. So just a tip. Then if you want to secure this at the bottom, you can do a little bead of glue. Goodness gracious, that's not gripping. You can do a little bead of glue along the bottom there just to hold those two pieces together. And that'll just make it extra secure. Make sure you use scissors and kind of trim off anything. And then you'll go ahead and continue around. Anything that has shiny tape, put that towards the inside so you have just the flat cardboard on the outside. That way all of the paint will take uniformly across the whole thing. Now I know this first little part of this is going to be my curve, so I'm going to go ahead and put that curve into the cardboard and do my trick. This is actually really a tight fit right here. If you see here, if I go straight up and down with this, it's actually a really nice fit, and then I can just go ahead and go back after I glue it and trim along this edge and take off that extra added section. So what I'm going to do is give a little bead of glue . The cool thing about hot glue guns is you can actually use that hot molten tip to run it back along the edge, and it almost like caulk smooths it out into the curve. You don't want to do that with your finger, you'll burn the heck out of it. But if you use the hot tip, it's a nice way of smoothing out that line if you need an extra section. After it's cool, take the strings away. Don't do it while it's hot. It'll just be keep pulling and pulling and pulling and endless. It's a joke. It's like an SNL skit. So now I'm going to go ahead and follow the curve of this bread. This is not ending ideally for me in the middle of a curve, but we're going to go with what we have. That movement you hear is my cat right underneath me in the cardboard box. If you have cats, you know exactly what I mean. So we're going to let that dry nice before I let go because it seems like it's a little bit flimsy right here. Add a little extra glue. It is a costume, you know, the kids are going to be banging it around. Well, this is for the adults to hold, but you know what I'm saying. If you're making this for your kids. I love homemade costumes. The first costume that I really remember my mom making was a rainbow Brite costume for me, and it was like, I mean, straight out of the cartoon. Exact. I mean, the puffy legs, the puffy arms, I mean, exact. So I'll have to find a picture of that. And I don't know if she set me off on my costume loving or not, but okay, I think that's good. The more hot glue you use, the longer it takes. So you know how it goes. I'm going to go ahead and continue going all the way around this, and I got to make my second loaf of bread, and I'll come back. Hey crafters, it's your naptime crafter, Merritt, and I just wanted to show you guys the rest of our really fun family BLT Halloween costume. So, from the last part of the project, I was showing you how to build these wonderful pieces of toast, and now in today's video, we're actually going to go ahead and paint these to be exactly like you see here. So what I did to achieve this, if you want to go ahead and gather your paints, is I have a burnt umber, a linen, and a burnt sienna. Now, I'll be honest with you, the burnt sienna is a little red for my taste, so if I were you, I would go with something a little less red, but I didn't have one on hand, and I wanted to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and do an overhead time lapse of painting this for you guys. But as you can see, what you're going to want to do is have your darkest edge and then leave a little bit of the lighter and then sponge on the inside so that you create that textural look that from far away looks like a burnt piece of toast. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to attach some sort of a handle onto the back of here so that we can hold on to it for our pictures. What I've done here is just create a small handle and hot glue it so that we can either hold it by our hand or slip some elastic through and turn it into a backpack. Then I'll get started showing you how I made my lettuce dress, as well as the piecing project, which was the bacon and the tomato outfit. The tomato I ended up just attaching to the neckline of a red onesie so that it will just hang down over him whenever he sits in the stroller, because I'm not sure how he'll be at that entire moment, so it's his first time and I want him to be able to sit comfortably. And then of course he'll wear his little red shoes and have some little red spots on his cheek. So exciting, guys. Stay tuned for the overhead.